1 Corinthians 13, starting at verse 1. And the Apostle Paul wrote to the church, said, "Now if I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. But if I have the gift of prophecy and I can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardships that I might boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing." Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. Thank you, God, for your precious word. I forgot to say, Alison, welcome back. Alison Weeble, lovely to have Alison Weeble, one of our missionaries in Mae Sot in Thailand, and it's great to have you back as well for this short period of time. Looking forward to catching up with you as well. Back last month, we commenced a series focusing on the power of love, based on this Bible passage, 1 Corinthians 13. And this series, which is leading up to Easter, will be focusing on the most incredible act of love, and that is what Jesus did on the cross for us. And I appreciated the songs this morning that are focusing on the power of Christ's love. There is power in love. Unselfish, redemptive love changes lives. Just like the unselfish, sacrificial love of our Lord and Saviour Jesus, who died on the cross for each of us. In our series, we have been reminded that Jesus saw such power in love that he commanded it to be the number one thing that we ought to do, to love God and to love one another. He said in Mark 12, he said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind and all your strength." And then he said, "And love your neighbour as yourself." Jesus knew that there is such power in love because of its source, God. God is love. And we know that the Apostle John wrote so much about love. For example, in 1 John chapter 4, verses 7 and 8, he says, "For love comes from God." God is love, he says. God is love. And out of his love, he created our beautiful world. Out of his love, God created humanity, each of us, in his own image. Out of his love, God sent Jesus to redeem us, to save us. Out of his love, God will one day send Jesus back to rescue the church. Love is powerful because Jesus commanded it, and because of its source, God is love. It's also powerful because it's got the ability to transform, to change lives. We also looked at two attributes of what love is. That it is patient. That it is kind. Last week, Andrew preached a great message looking at what love isn't. Love isn't envious or boastful or proud. This week we move on to verses 5 and 6, looking at what love does not do. Paul wrote this, verses 5 and 6, that love does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. I've heard of a church where every Sunday after Sunday, at some part of the service, they read out this whole passage, the whole passage of 1 Corinthians 13. Every Sunday, it was read out in some way or another at each service. Well, one Sunday after it was read out, after the service, a group of people came up to the pastor and they were saying, look, we're getting a little bit tired. We know that passage. Why is it being read out every Sunday, Sunday after Sunday? And the pastor, and this is true, the pastor graciously said that it's going to continue to be read out until we all practice what it teaches, loving one another. You see, loving one another is one of our foundational teachings of the church. It ought to be the mark that distinguishes Christianity from all other religions and businesses and groups. And yet, like the Corinthian church, we all still need to learn to practice it and practice it and practice it to one another. After describing what love is, and Paul continues in the same line of thinking. This time saying what love doesn't do. And we'll look at these, particularly their antonyms. Paul says this in verse 5, that love does not dishonour others. Dishonour is bringing shame and disgrace upon someone. And when someone has really hurt us, it is kind of natural to think of ways to bring shame and disgrace upon that person. In our minds, we start to imagine them as this evil monster. And so we start to think the worst of them. Maybe they did a horrendous act. We read and hear and see every day of people doing terrible acts against each other. It's wrong. And so Paul's words are rather hard to follow when it's such a natural act wanting to dishonour them in some way. And this is where we're going to need the supernatural act of God to help us to forgive. But let's look now at the antonym of dishonour. It's honour. Agape love honours. The word honour means respect or to esteem at the highest level or to add weight to. It comes from the biblical times when coins were weighed to determine their value. The heavier the coin, the greater its value. Honour works in the same way. The greater the value we place on God, on people, on things, the greater their weight, the greater their influence in our life. By honouring, we deeply value and respect the object of our honour and elevate it to a place of influence. True honour has nothing to do with our feelings and emotions. It begins as a decision of the heart and expressed outwardly with a genuine respect, reverence, and highest of esteem. It cannot be limited to just mere lip service, because sooner or later, the real condition of the heart will be tested and exposed. In what seems to be a kind of obscure place in the Bible, it's this gem of a verse with a challenge and a promise. 1 Samuel 2, verse 30. And it says, "Therefore the Lord, the God of Israel, declares, I promised that members of your family would minister before me forever. But now, the Lord declares, far be it from me. Those who honour me, I will honour. But those who despise me will be disdained." To put this in its context, John MacArthur says that although Eli's genealogy was not recorded in the Old Testament, he was a descendant of Aaron. The Lord had revealed himself to Aaron in Egypt before the Exodus. Aaron had been divinely chosen to serve the Lord as the first of a long line of priests. This was indeed such a great honor. Not only were they given the privilege to serve God in this way, but they were even allowed to eat from the food that was given by others. Sadly, though, the family of Eli took their eyes off God and onto their own stomachs. Eli was rebuked by God because he honored his sons higher than God, because he didn't discipline their behavior. It is a reminder to all who enjoy the privileges given by God that blessings cannot go on forever and forever in the face of disobedience. Anyway, Eli and his sons didn't get this. And the Lord's word came true with both Eli's sons dying on the same day. They didn't believe that God says and what he promises, that those who honor me, I will honor them. And this is a consistent theme throughout Scripture. You could say that it started all the way back with the original 10 commandments. I mean, the first 4 commandments were all about honoring God. Commandment 1 is about honoring God, honoring no other gods but the God. Commandment 2 is about not honoring anything else above God. Commandment 3 is about honoring God by not misusing his holy name. And Commandment 4 is to keep a day set apart for rest and honor God. These are timely truths here that have been affirmed by Jesus in Matthew 22. There is something about being honored. If you have ever been in a position where you have been honored, it just makes you feel special and loved. If you have ever had speeches given in your honor, perhaps at a special birthday or when you left work, you do feel special and loved. And this, according to Paul, is how we should love others, by honoring. God's word says that we are to honor our parents in Ephesians 6. In other passages like Romans 12, verse 10, we are to honor one another. Be devoted to one another, he says, in love. Honor one another above yourselves. I was always taught that you should always honor those who have gone before you, that you should always honor those who are older than you. As a church, we honor. It is one of our adopted values. We want to create a culture where God and people are honored. We particularly want to elevate Jesus to his rightful place as the King of all kings and the Lord of all lords, including the Lord of our lives and the Lord of our church. The greater the value we place on God and on people, the greater their weight and influence are in our life. By honoring, we deeply value and respect each other and God. Now, linking into honor others is a statement by Paul in verse 5 that love is not self-seeking. The Message Bible puts it this way: isn't always me first. I kind of think you might agree with me that we are becoming a me culture. After all, it's all about me. Look at this little video clip.
Here at the National Institute of Student Ministries, our researchers have discovered a radical new method of addressing a shocking trend that has shaken the very foundation of this prestigious institution. Quite frankly, we didn't think it would work.
You see, the me linebacker is in existence because there's a crucial problem.
You know what, bro? I don't really care. Today, it's all about me.
The me linebacker deals directly with the me attitude.
When it's about me, you gotta pay a fee. Booyah to the esophagus. Booyah to your medulla oblongata. Booyah to your pancreas, baby. Booyah, booyah, booyah. You see, we live in a culture that every commercial is telling you this. If you don't buy my product, you're not skinny enough, you're not tall enough, you're not buff enough. Philippians 2, it's not about you.
Hey, I'm just headed to the mall. I haven't been forever. I need to go spend some money on me. I need to go make it rain. It's all about...
Ouch. In one community alone, meism has dropped 75%.
You was lost, but now you found.
Not since the stock market crash of '29 has anything dropped faster.
You see, but the linebacker is trying to kick it to you straight.
Run!
The linebacker's here to blow the me out of you so the Christ can fill you.
Hey, what are you doing? You want to come hang out after church?
No, I think I'm gonna go home and jizzam.
Jizam, you need to be focusing on the great I am.
The linebacker is here to promote thy will be done, not my will be done.
It's not about me, it's about community.
So, I really need help with my walk with the Lord, Anit. Anit?
Your mama's talking to you, your dad is calling you, and you can't even hear him because you're texting. You're always on the phone. You see, what the linebacker does is when kids are in outer space, I give them a booyah of grace. But we've lost the capacity to communicate face to face. Woo! Put down your pod and give it to God.
Expect it when you least expect it. For all of us here at NIFSM, no pain, no gain.
All right, I think we get the drift a bit here. That love isn't just about me. Paul suggests in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 11, the antidote for self-seeking. He says this, therefore encourage one another and build each other up. To authentically encourage and to build someone up, you need to consciously think of another person than just yourself. And this is what agape love is about. It isn't just centered on you. It's not just self-seeking. It isn't always me first. Agape love is about others and building them up. As I said a few weeks ago, Bishop Michael Curry at the wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle last year, he said that there is power in love, and then he said, love is not selfish and self-centered. Love can be sacrificial, and in doing so becomes redemptive. And that way of unselfish, sacrificial, redemptive love changes lives. If you are married, build each other up. At work, find ways to encourage, to build up your colleagues. If you play sport, make sure you encourage your teammates. It's not just about you. At church, leaders encourage members in what they do. Members, encourage your leaders for the hours of work and prayer that they put into leading. If you don't, then watch out for the linebacker. Next, Paul wrote what I think many would find some very challenging words. He says in verse 5 that love does not keep record of wrongs. We kind of do, don't we? When someone hurts us, we remember. And sometimes maybe even years later, we remind them of what they did. I think what Paul is saying is that the power of love can be seen when we give up our right to get even and learn to move on. Move on from bitterness and hatred. Paul is saying that it's time to move on. And I'm glad this is what God did for me and what he did for you. Hebrews 8 verse 12 says, I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more. Thank you, God. And then in verse 6, Paul closes this section by saying, it does not rejoice, it's about love, it does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love does not rejoice about injustices, which is why I personally wasn't celebrating when the government announced its budget last week. Australian aid has been slashed for the 6th time in consecutive budgets. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg announced plans to cease $500 million of existing aid projects in Southeast Asia. And church leaders were very quick to speak out. Baptist Tim Costello has written, well, surplus is here, yet the poor have been forgotten. Anglican pastor and Ridley College lecturer Dr. John Dixon has also written how the 4th richest nation on earth can justify cutting aid while splashing around tax cuts for middle incomers. I do not know. Jodie Lightfoot, Director of Campaign for Aussie Aid, pulled no punches in commenting on the budget cuts this year, saying cutting services that supports kids in poverty does not reflect the willingness of Australians to help people in need. Love does not rejoice about injustices. As Christians, we stand against injustices and we look at ways how we can provide justice. Amos said this. He said, let justice roll on like a river. And so, writes Paul, to the church that was divided, he says, love does not dishonor. Rather, it honors God and honors one another. He says, love is not self-seeking, nor me first. Rather, it encourages and builds up. Love is not about keeping a record of wrongs. Rather, in time, it moves on. And love does not rejoice about injustice, but rather seeks justice. When we put into action this kind of love, there is power. God is pleased and changes occur. Out of these areas, which one do you need to work on? Oh, it takes prayer. It takes the supernatural work of our Almighty God to sanctify you through and through and through. It takes boldness and faith and healing. But it's worth it. It's worth it for others. It's worth it for you. For there is power in love.